The late afternoon sun hung softly over Seoul when the unexpected announcement swept across entertainment portals. Jung Hae-in and Jung So-min would appear together for a rare joint interview, an event so unprecedented that even industry reporters questioned its legitimacy at first. Neither actor had spoken publicly for months. Not since the quiet completion of their last project. And the silence surrounding them had given birth to countless rumors, disagreements, personal crises, secret preparations, or even an unspoken distance. But now, the silence was finally breaking. By the time the two stars arrived at the Namsan Skyline studio, a breathtaking glass-paneled space perched above the city with a sweeping view of Seoul Tower, tension and curiosity pulsed through every inch of the room. The space, known for hosting only the most intimate and prestigious interviews, glowed in warm golden light as the sun dipped toward evening. Below the floor-to-ceiling windows, Seoul stretched endlessly, alive, glittering, unaware of the revelation about to unfold. Veteran journalist Shin Soo-yeon waited at the center of the studio, her notes neatly arranged, though even she appeared slightly nervous. After all, it wasn't every day that two of Korea's most admired and enigmatic actors agreed to sit down together, especially after months of persistent speculation. Everything about the setting, its quiet luxury, its controlled lighting, its stillness, felt deliberate, as though the moment had been crafted not for scandal, but for truth. The glass door opened. Jung Hae-in entered first, dressed in soft charcoal tones that emphasized his calm, steady presence. A polite smile crossed his face as he bowed to the staff. Moments later, Jung So-min followed. In a cream blouse and tailored trousers, her steps light yet composed. There was a brief second, a fleeting glance exchanged between them, followed by identical, almost shy smiles. It was enough to change the entire temperature of the room. Took their seats across from Soo-yeon. Microphones clipped. Tea gently steaming beside them. The atmosphere was polite, professional, but charged. Outside, the skyline glowed a deep ember. "Thank you both for being here," Soo-yeon began. Voice warm but inquisitive. "There has been much curiosity about the silence these past months. Why now? Why together?" Hae-in inhaled slowly, offering a thoughtful smile before answering. "I think both of us felt it was time. There were things we hadn't had the chance to say, and perhaps it was better to say them together." So-min nodded, her expression softening. "I wasn't ready to speak alone," she admitted. "Some moments are easier to revisit when someone understands them with you." It was a gentle answer, but enough to send the live stream chat exploding with comments. The chemistry between the two, quiet, refined, understated, was already speaking louder than their words. As the interview unfolded, Soo-yeon guided them toward the question viewers had been waiting for, their first meeting. Both actors smiled at the memory. At a casting session, Hae-in recalled, laughing lightly. "I thought she was hard to approach. Very serious. Very contained." Min burst into laughter, and he spilled water on the script. "I was nervous," Hae-in confessed. "But she pretended not to notice. That made me more nervous." The playful exchange filled the studio with warmth. It was easy to imagine the young versions of themselves, two actors trying to find their place within an industry that demanded perfection. Even now, retelling the story, a trace of that youthful awkwardness lingered. From their first meeting, the conversation moved naturally toward the impression they had of each other throughout filming. So-min spoke first. "I realized early on that Hae-in SSI has this unique ability to disappear completely into a scene. Everything else around him fades. You can feel it, like the world stops moving for a second." She paused, then added with a fond smile. "It makes you want to match that sincerity." Hae-in listened quietly, eyes soft. When it was his turn, he hesitated for a moment, searching for words. "I think people underestimate how much heart So-min gives to her work. She carries her emotions gently, deeply." During one scene, she was struggling, not because she couldn't act it, but because she felt it too much. And I realized then how rare that honesty is. There was a gravity in his tone, sincerity that settled over the studio like a veil of warmth. Reporters behind the cameras exchanged glances. Was this still an interview? Or were they witnessing something more intimate? Sun slipped lower, and Seoul Tower lit up. The studio grew quieter, as though bracing for the moment it knew was coming. Soo-yeon leaned in slightly. "Both of you have been praised for your emotional depth and chemistry. Impact have you had on each other as actors?" For a moment, neither spoke. Then, most unexpectedly, Hae-in broke the silence. She's the one who changed how I approach acting. Froze. Even the soft hum of the studio lights seemed to pause. So-min blinked. Her composed expression faltering, not with discomfort, but with unexpected emotion. Hae-in continued, voice steady but gentle. Challenged me. She made me unlearn habits I didn't realize I had. She reminded me that acting isn't about technique, it's about truth. About listening. She made me listen again. It was the kind of confession Korean actors rarely voiced publicly, raw, vulnerable, unpolished in the most sincere way. Media collapsed into chaos as clips of the moment began circulating within seconds. So-min exhaled shakily before speaking, choosing her words with care. Then, I'll say this, she began softly. He's the person I trust most on set. The statement hit the room like a ripple. She continued. There were days when I was overwhelmed. Days when my emotions didn't feel safe. But he always sensed it. He knew when to give space. And when to stand closer. It's rare to meet someone who respects your boundaries and your heart at the same time. As she spoke, her voice wavered, not from weakness, but from the sincerity of recalling moments that clearly meant more than viewers ever knew. The emotional resonance of her words was palpable. Fans watching live typed in frantic disbelief. Porters mouthed silent wows. Even Soo-yeon looked momentarily moved. Her journalistic composure dissolving. For several seconds, neither actor spoke. They simply looked at each other, long enough for the moment to be noticed. Short enough to remain dignified. Outside the window, night finally settled over Seoul. The city glittered. Unaware that inside a high-rise glass studio, two actors had just shifted the landscape of public perception with only a few sentences that carried more intimacy and meaning than an entire year of rumors. Soo-yeon regained her composure and smiled. I believe the whole nation just felt something they weren't prepared for. The actors laughed shyly, breaking the tension. But the revelation lingered in the air, undeniable, unforgettable, impossible to dismiss. As the first half of the interview drew to a close, and offered a final reflection. This feels like only the beginning. A feeling the story doesn't end here. And indeed, it didn't. It had fully descended over Seoul by the time the cameras resumed rolling for the second half of the interview. The Namsan Skyline studio, once bathed in amber light, shimmered in soft shades of cobalt and silver as the city below glowed in intricate patterns, each building, each street, each flickering light seeming to pulse with the aftermath of what had just taken place. The first half of Jung Hae-in and Jung So-min's joint interview had already sent the internet spiraling into an emotional frenzy. But no one, not even those seated inside the studio, knew how much deeper the evening was destined to go. When the cameras turned back on, everything felt different. The tension that had quietly hung in the room earlier had melted, replaced by an unmistakable warmth. The two actors sat slightly closer than before, their posture more relaxed, their smiles easier. And the staff moved with gentler steps, as if unwilling to disturb the fragile honesty that had settled in the air. Shin Soo-yeon adjusted her microphone and spoke with a softer voice than before. I think we all felt the weight of your words earlier, she said. So before we move forward, let me ask something simple, are you both okay? Min let out a small laugh, tucking her hair behind her ear. I didn't expect to say that much, she admitted. It feels a bit like I opened a door I didn't know I had. Hae-in nodded, his eyes flickering with quiet amusement. I think it was overdue, he said. Sometimes silence grows too heavy. Saying things aloud makes it lighter. The sincerity of their exchange sent another ripple of emotion across viewers. But if the first half of the interview had been about admissions and acknowledgments, the second half was about understanding, the deeper, quieter truths that shaped the bond between these two actors. Soo-yeon leaned forward. Earlier, you mentioned moments when you depended on each other emotionally. Could you share one of those moments more specifically? For a moment, neither spoke. Then So-min took a slow breath. It was a day on set, she began, her voice softening into recollection. When I felt completely drained. The scene required a lot from me emotionally. And I pushed myself too hard. After the director called cut, I felt this emptiness. Like I had nothing left. Her gaze drifted toward the window, as though watching the memory unfold against the city lights. I didn't want anyone to see me like that. Felt embarrassed, almost. so I walked away to sit alone behind one of the set walls. She paused. A gentle stillness settled over the room. When Hae-in came, she continued. He didn't say anything at first. He just sat beside me. No questions, no expectations. It was the quietest kind of comfort. It made me feel safe. Gasp could be heard among the staff behind the cameras. So-min's confession was simple, but heavy with emotion, too human, too honest to be anything but real. Hae-in listened intently. His expression calm yet deeply moved. I remember that day, he said gently. What she doesn't know is that I was struggling too. That scene took a toll on both of us. When I saw her walk away like that, something just told me to follow. Not because she needed help, but because I didn't want her to be alone in that moment. Their eyes met briefly, quiet, lingering. Almost shy, yet filled with an unspoken understanding that required no explanation. Soo-yeon let the moment breathe before she continued. Hae-in SSI? Was there a moment when So-min made an impact on you? He exhaled, his shoulders relaxing as though releasing a memory he had held on to for too long. There was a rehearsal day, he recalled. We were exhausted. It was late. Everyone wanted to go home. And I was frustrated with myself because I couldn't get one scene right. I kept overthinking it. I felt like I was failing. Paused, eyes lowering slightly. And then she said something that changed everything for me. So-min blinked, surprised. What did I say? Hae-in smiled, a slow, almost nostalgic smile. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. Hung tenderly in the air. That's when I realized, he continued. Acting isn't about precision. It's about sincerity. And she reminded me of that. The viewers watching from home later described the moment as heart-stopping, unexpectedly intimate, and a confession disguised as gratitude. In the studio, even the cooling system seemed to hum more quietly as the emotional resonance settled among them. With the atmosphere softened, Jung shifted the direction of the interview. There have been rumors, she said carefully, that the two of you were recently approached for a new melodrama project. Can you comment on that? Both actors exchanged a look, not startled, but thoughtful. Then Hae-in answered, choosing his words with care. Yes, it's true, we received an offer. So-min nodded. We haven't decided yet. It's a project that would require a lot of emotional vulnerability and trust. The implication was clear. Trust was something they already had. Viewers erupted, fan communities went wild, and news outlets began drafting headlines before the words even finished leaving their lips. The idea of seeing Jung Hae-in and Jung So-min reunite on screen, especially after such an emotionally revealing interview, was enough to shake the entertainment landscape. Back in the studio, Soo-yeon smiled knowingly. Sounds like the world may see more of you together. And laughed quietly, her cheeks faintly pink. Maybe. If he accepts first, I'll consider it. Hae-in looked at her, pleasantly surprised. That's how it is. She nodded with playful confidence. That's how it is. He chuckled gently before responding. Guess I should say, if it's with So-min. Need much time to think. It was the final blow, the line that sent fan communities into meltdown. The line that would dominate entertainment headlines for the next week. The line that would be replayed in edits over soft music and slow-motion gazes. As the interview neared its end, the studio lights dimmed, allowing the night view of Seoul to fill the frame. And closed her notebook. Tonight, she said, you didn't just break your silence. You allowed people to see the humanity behind your artistry. And that is something rare. Both actors smiled, genuine, warm, touched by the truth of her words. When the cameras finally clicked off, Hae-in and So-min stood side by side, walking slowly toward the glass balcony that overlooked the sparkling city. For a moment, they said nothing. Silence between them was no longer heavy but peaceful, like a chapter finally allowed to breathe. From behind, the camera captured one last image, two silhouettes framed by the lights of Seoul, standing close enough for their shoulders to nearly touch, united in a quiet, unspoken understanding. The perfect ending to a revelation that stunned fans not because it was scandalous, but because it was honest, emotional, profoundly human. And as the world watched, one truth became undeniable. Some stories do not need dramatic twists. Sometimes, all it takes is two people finally saying what they had held inside, and letting the world hear the sincerity in their silence breaking.